While cleaning the garage for Dad's birthday, I heard him call me our family failure project on speaker. Everyone laughed, said I was just cheap labor. I stayed silent, smiling. Now it's night. They're screaming at my door, begging me to stop. I was standing in my dad's garage in Cedar Falls, Iowa, holding a cracked plastic bin full of old 4th of July decorations when I heard my own father call me a deadweight charity case. Not whispered, not muttered, said out loud, said proudly, said while laughing, and worst of all, said while I was 10 feet away. Here's how it happened. 3 weeks ago, Dad, Franklin, asked me to come over early on Saturday to help clean before his big retirement cookout. I'm Evan, 33, single, IT support, and apparently the family pack mule. I didn't think anything of it because this is how it always is, me helping, them taking. I figured I'd kill a morning sorting dusty boxes and head home before the relatives swarmed. Franklin stepped inside to grab a drink, which really meant he was taking another phone call from someone he'd rather talk to. I kept working, sliding bins around, opening the side window for some air. And that's when I heard his voice on speakerphone, rolling out the kitchen window like he was making sure the whole damn block could hear. He was talking to my sister, Kayla, and my uncle Marty, plus my cousin Jordan, the one I've bailed out of more financial screw-ups than I can count. All of them circled around the speaker like some kind of council meeting about my life. Kayla said, "Evan's here already? Wow, must not have anything better to do." Again, I froze. Then Marty laughed. His deep, smoker's cough laugh and said, "Boy's 33 going on 13. Still waiting for life to happen to him." Jordan added, "He's basically free labor. Might as well use him while he's still hanging around." And then Franklin, God, he chuckled and said, "He's not hanging around. He's stuck. Evan's always been stuck. He's the family deadweight. Our little charity case who doesn't realize he's the joke." I didn't breathe, didn't blink. I just stood there with that stupid bin in my hands while they laughed. Full, mocking laughter like they were roasting some stranger. Not me. Kayla chimed in with, "At least he actually shows up. He still thinks we enjoy having him there. It's kinda sad. Sad. Sad." She said it like she was talking about a stray dog they couldn't get rid of. Marty said, "He's old enough to know he's failing, but he'll keep showing up. He always does." Franklin closed it out with, "As long as he's around, no one else in this family looks like the disappointment." Everything in me went numb. When Franklin finally walked back into the garage 20 minutes later, he clapped me on the back and asked if I wanted lunch, like he hadn't just gutted me open to an audience. I told him the garage looked good. I said it calmly. I don't know how, but there was one moment, one tiny moment, where our eyes met and I swear he knew, or at least suspected. He looked at me for half a second too long, as if searching my face for something. But I didn't give him anything. No anger, no tears, just silence. Because right then, something inside me shifted, snapped, changed into something I didn't have a name for yet. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment replaying their words on a loop. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't new. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a slip. This was the truth slipping out. Their real truth. And if they thought I was their stuck, pathetic, lifelong family joke, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Because I wasn't planning on staying stuck. I wasn't planning on staying quiet. And I sure as hell wasn't planning on staying their charity case. Not after what I heard. The next morning, I made a decision. One that would flip my entire family upside down in ways they absolutely did not see coming. Just one choice. One shift. And everything started unraveling from there. People always assume family tension happens all at once. Like some big blow-up that ruins everything in a single moment. But it's rarely like that. It's slow. Creeps in. It builds from 1,000 tiny cuts you don't realize are wounds until one day you bleed out. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to believe them. I grew up in a small beige house on Oak Ridge Drive with 3 people who all seemed to have been born knowing exactly who they were. My dad, Franklin, was the kind of man who thought working with your hands made you morally superior to everyone else. My mom, Lydia, was soft-spoken and spent most of her life smoothing over Franklin's rough edges like he was something she could polish back into kindness. My sister Kayla, 2 years younger, was the golden child before she could even write her own name. And then there was me. I was the quiet kid, the one who stayed in my room building computers from scrap parts instead of playing sports. My dad thought that was weird. My sister thought it was pathetic. And my Uncle Marty thought it was a sign the boy ain't right. But even then, I told myself that all families teased. That some families just didn't understand each other. That being different didn't mean being unwanted. Then came high school. Kayla was a varsity cheerleader, homecoming court, all of that. Franklin went to every game, yelling her name loud enough to make people turn around. When I won first place in a regional coding competition, he shook my hand like I just said I was quitting drugs. Good for you, bud. Maybe this stuff will help you get a job someday. It was the closest thing to praise I ever got. After graduation, Kayla married some guy named Trevor 6 months after meeting him. Dad bragged about their wedding for years, telling everybody how proud he was that she settled down early. When I got my first real job in IT at a company in Des Moines, he said, "Well, it's something until you grow out of it." I kept pretending his approval didn't matter. But it did. I kept showing up. I kept helping with house repairs, babysitting, moving furniture, attending every birthday and barbecue. Part of me believed that if I stayed close enough, long enough, they'd eventually see me. Not as a disappointment, not as the weird tech kid, not as the one who didn't fit, but as their equal. It never happened. Instead, it shifted into something darker. I became the reliable afterthought, the helper, the filler background character in their lives. And somehow I accepted that because it was easier than admitting what it really meant. Then came Jordan, my cousin, perpetual financial disaster. I loaned him money, fixed his laptops, picked him up from bars at 2 a.m. He always said, "Man, you really save me sometimes," but never once asked about my life. I didn't expect him to. That's how used to being invisible I'd become. The truth is, I didn't think any of them were cruel. I thought they were just blunt, old-fashioned, maybe a little judgmental. I thought it was normal family dynamics, that everyone's family had their own brand of messed up. I never realized it wasn't normal. Not until the garage. Not until I heard them all laughing together about me being the family failure. That was the moment things clicked into place. It wasn't teasing. It wasn't concern. It wasn't misunderstanding. It was contempt. Long-term, deep-rooted, casual contempt. And the worst part? I had been participating in it by showing up, by helping, by pretending everything was fine. But now I knew better. And the second you see the truth clearly, you can't unsee it. The morning after everything I heard in Franklin's kitchen, I woke up with this strange, heavy calm in my chest. Not sadness. Not anger. More like clarity, the kind that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. I didn't confront anyone. Didn't send an angry text. Didn't call to demand answers. Instead, I did something way more terrifying to them. I changed my behavior. On Sunday, the day of Franklin's retirement cookout, I showed up exactly on time. Not early to help set up like I always did. Kayla noticed immediately. "You're late," she said, even though I wasn't. I shrugged. "Traffic." She blinked, thrown off. She wasn't used to me giving short answers. Inside, Franklin was flipping burgers, calling out greetings to everyone like some proud host. When he saw me, he gave me this tight nod, almost cautious, like he was still trying to read me. Good. Let him wonder. I spent most of the afternoon quietly observing. Every joke about my bachelor lifestyle, every dig at my computer job, every eye roll when I mentioned the apartment I worked hard to afford. It all hit differently now. It wasn't family teasing. It was performance. And I was finally seeing it without excuses. But the real shift happened when Jordan came up behind me and clapped my shoulder. "Hey man, you free next Saturday? My laptop's acting up again." I didn't even look at him. "Nah, I'm busy." He froze. Like literally froze. Jordan's entire identity relies on people cleaning up his messes for him. "Oh, okay. Maybe Sunday then." "No," he blinked fast. "No to Sunday? No to fixing your laptop." Take it to a shop. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. I don't have the money for that. I shrugged. Then figure it out. For the first time in our entire relationship, he looked at me like I was an actual person, not a resource. That alone was almost satisfying. Almost. Later, Kayla cornered me in the kitchen. Are you in a mood today? She asked. No, you sure? You're being weird. I'm just tired. From the look she gave me, I could tell she didn't buy it. But she didn't know what the hell was going on either. Good. Let her wonder too. The next big moment came 2 days later. Kayla texted me, "We're counting on you for Thursday's dinner. Mom needs help setting up." Normal me would have said yes without thinking. New me didn't even hesitate. Can't make it. Kayla replied instantly, "Why not?" I stared at the message, amazed at how bold she felt entitled to be. I typed back, "Other plans." She sent, "Since when do you have plans on Thursdays?" That one made me laugh, dark, humorless. I didn't respond. An hour later, Franklin called. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. "Hey, Evan. Heard you're skipping dinner. Everything okay? You know family's important. Important enough to mock behind my back? Apparently not." I deleted the voicemail without listening to the rest. By the end of the week, the group chat was buzzing with questions, check-ins, passive-aggressive comments, and thinly veiled concern. Not one person asked if they had done something wrong. They were too busy trying to figure out why I was behaving differently. That was when it hit me. They didn't see me as a person with emotions. They saw me as a pattern, a function, a guaranteed yes. So when the pattern changed even a little, they panicked. And that panic? That was my first taste of power. But it was nothing compared to what came next. Because the first real twist, the one that cracked the whole family open, that one arrived at my apartment door 3 days later, pounding hard enough to rattle the frame. The pounding on my apartment door that Thursday night wasn't the usual frustrated, "Why aren't you answering your phone?" family knock. This one had urgency, direction, purpose. When I opened the door, Lydia, my mom, practically fell inside. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. She looked wrecked. Not like she'd been crying. Like she'd been holding back tears for hours. "Evan," she said, gripping my arm. "We need to talk. Now." I'd never seen my mom like that. Lydia was the family's quiet fixer. The smoother over. The pacifier. She kept the peace, even when peace didn't deserve to exist. So seeing her standing in my doorway, begging to talk without Franklin or Kayla or anyone else around, that alone would have been enough to shake me. But what she told me, that was the first real twist in this whole nightmare. She stepped inside, pacing my living room like she was afraid the walls were listening. Finally, she stopped and said, "I know what you heard." My stomach dropped. I didn't admit it. I didn't have to. "Your father told me the next morning," she continued. "He said he wasn't sure if you overheard the call. He thought you maybe reacted." I stayed silent. Then she said the words that cracked the floor under me. "Evan, that wasn't the first time they've talked about you like that." I felt my throat tighten. Not rage, not shock. Something colder. Something that made my chest go hollow. She kept going, voice trembling, hands twisting in front of her like she was confessing to a crime. "They've been doing this for years. Your father, Kayla, Marty, Jordan. All of them. Every Sunday dinner, every gathering, every birthday, they discuss you." I swallowed hard. Discuss me, as if I was a case file. "What do they say?" I asked even though I already knew. But nothing prepared me for her answer. "They rate you," she whispered. I blinked. "Rate me?" She nodded, tears finally spilling. "They rank your life. Compare your accomplishments to everyone else's. They keep a running joke, who thinks you'll finally grow up this year. Whether you'll get married, buy a house, or stay exactly where you are. She covered her mouth. "They bet on it." I sat down because my legs weren't working. My family, my blood, had been running a secret betting pool on my life like it was some twisted fantasy league. My mom went on. "Kayla started it," she said softly. "Years ago. after you took that IT job. She told your father you were wasting your potential. They all agreed. It got worse over time. More cruel. I stared at her, numb. You never said anything, I said, barely able to speak. She flinched. I tried, she whispered. But every time I defended you, they shut me down. Told me I was enabling you. That I didn't understand what you needed. And what did I need, Mom? Her face crumpled. They said you needed tough love. That mocking you would push you to change. I genuinely felt sick. Then came the final blow. Evan, your father told them not to tell you about the betting pool. He said, and I am so sorry. He said you'd never be successful enough to make it interesting. I closed my eyes. That was it. The first twist. The truth beneath the truth. My family hadn't just judged me. They had invested in my failure. Literally. A private, ongoing game built around my life going nowhere. Mom grabbed my hand. I couldn't keep quiet after what happened. You deserve to know. All of it. I pulled my hand away. Because in that moment, I realized something sharp and undeniable. It wasn't just them who betrayed me. It was her too. The parent who stayed silent. And that silence hurt worse than the laughter. Evan, she whispered, voice cracking. Please, say something. But I couldn't, because the only thing in my head was this. If this was just the first twist, what else had they been hiding? And I was about to find out. I didn't let Lydia stay long after her confession. She kept asking if I was okay, if I hated her, if I understood why she hadn't said anything. But I felt detached, like she was talking to someone standing behind me, not me directly. When she finally left, the apartment went quiet, too quiet, and I sat there in the dark for a long time. The betting pool, the family laughter, the ranking system, years of it. It wasn't just cruelty. It was sport. And once that sunk in, something inside me hardened. Slow, steady, controlled. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. This wasn't going to be me begging them to understand how much they'd hurt me. This was going to be removal, exposure, correction. I wasn't planning revenge out of spite. I was planning it out of survival. And once I started thinking clearly, patterns appeared everywhere. Places I could cut ties cleanly, messlessly, with maximum effect. Step 1. Stop being useful. They treated me like a tool because I allowed it. So I stopped. Every favor request that week was met with the same 3-word reply. I'm not available. Kayla wanted help organizing her basement. Not available. Marty wanted me to look at his email issues. Not available. Jordan wanted a ride to the mechanic. Not available. Every no sent a shockwave through the family chat. I could practically feel the gears grinding in their heads. The thing is, when people only value you for what you provide, your absence doesn't just confuse them, it threatens the whole system. And confusion was just the beginning. Step 2, remove their access. Access is power. They'd had all the access to my life. My time, my energy, my availability. So I pulled it back. I muted the group chat. I stopped visiting. I stopped answering immediately. I stopped explaining myself. Within 4 days, I had 12 missed calls, 9 texts, and 1 surprise visit from Kayla, who pounded on my door like she was a cop. I didn't open it. Her message afterward? What is going on with you? This isn't normal. Normal, their favorite word. Normal meant obedient. Normal meant predictable. Normal meant convenient. And I wasn't any of those things anymore. Step 3, information. If I was going to take my life back, I needed every piece of truth they'd been hiding. I called my mom. For once, she answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting. Evan, she breathed. No drama, I said. Just answers. And she gave them to me. They'd started betting on my life after I turned 21. Small things at first, whether I'd date anyone, whether I'd stick with a job longer than a year, whether I'd move out of the apartment I got after college. When I accomplished something, anything, they shifted the goalposts. Got a job? Not a real one. Got promoted? Not in a real field. Moved out? Still renting. Bought a car? Used. Saved money? Not enough. Everything I did was fuel for their private entertainment. And the worst part? Lydia admitted she kept notes. Notes. Because she wanted to show your father you were improving. Improving. Like I was some rehab patient they were monitoring. That night, after hanging up with her, I sat down with a notebook. A real one. Not on my laptop. Something about writing it by hand felt grounded. Serious. I wrote 3 things at the top. What they took from me, what they think I am, what I will do now, and beneath that, I didn't write revenge plans. I wrote boundaries, weapons sharper than anything else in my arsenal because they couldn't fight them without proving me right. My family relied on my silence, my compliance, my presence. So my revenge would be built on the opposite. Distance, exposure, independence, things they hated most. I wasn't going to scream at them. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to justify myself. I was going to let their own actions ruin their control. And the timing? Perfect. Because something was about to happen. Something none of us saw coming. That would blow everything open. A second twist. A big one. One that changed the entire shape of the story. The second twist didn't arrive with yelling or accusations or another family ambush. It arrived on a Wednesday morning at 8:13 a.m. in the form of a short, stiff email from HR. Subject. Question regarding your employment status. I reread it 3 times because it made no sense. Why would my job be questioning my employment status? Attached was a forwarded message. From Franklin. My father had emailed my employer. Not one sentence. Not a misunderstanding. A full 3-paragraph letter. I read it slowly, the words burning deeper each time. I am writing out of concern for my son, Evan. His personal behavior has become unpredictable, and I believe he may be struggling with stability. I worry it may affect his performance at your company. Performance? Stability? What the hell was he implying? I kept reading. Evan has always had difficulty maintaining responsibility. Our family is trying to help him, but he refuses support. If his work seems inconsistent, please understand this is part of a long-term pattern. My jaw clenched so hard my ears rang. The last line was the one that pushed me from stunned into something dangerously calm. If necessary, my family and I can provide additional context about his situation. Additional context. A man who hadn't once asked about my job beyond, "You still doing that computer stuff?" was now offering context about my life to the people who paid my salary. But the kicker? The timestamp. He'd sent it 3 weeks earlier, the morning after the garage conversation, before I had changed anything, before I'd even processed what I heard, before he thought I might distance myself. He'd been preparing for something, planting seeds, setting a narrative. Franklin hadn't just mocked me behind my back. He'd tried to undermine my livelihood. I emailed HR back immediately, asking for a call. We hopped on a video meeting 10 minutes later. My manager and an HR rep were there, looking uncomfortable. They weren't accusing me of anything, they were confused. My manager said, "We've never had any performance concerns for you, Evan." This email surprised us. I explained carefully that my father was inserting himself where he had no place to be, that there were family issues but none that impacted my work. HR nodded and said something I didn't expect. "Honestly, the email itself is concerning. Not about you, but about him. We just needed to make sure everything was okay on your side." I thanked them, reassured them, and hung up. But the second that call ended, the calm feeling vanished. I was shaking, not with fear, with clarity, because this wasn't just family drama. This wasn't just name-calling or bets or mockery. Franklin had actively tried to sabotage my job, my independence, the very thing they all claimed I didn't have. That email had one purpose: to keep me dependent, to make me look unstable, to keep the family failure narrative alive. My retreat from the family hadn't triggered his sabotage. My existence had. And that was when the final, horrifying realization hit me. The betting pool wasn't entertainment. It was control. And Franklin was the one enforcing it. He wasn't cruel by accident. He wasn't careless. He was strategic, which meant my revenge needed to be as well. Because if he was willing to attack my job behind my back, He'd try worse once he realized I knew. But what Franklin didn't know was that his little email didn't just fail. It exposed the weak spot in their entire system. The part one could break. And I was done playing quiet. I didn't confront Franklin right away. I didn't storm over. Didn't call. Didn't send the email I drafted and deleted 30 times. Instead, I waited. Because when someone is willing to sabotage their own child's job, the real question isn't how they justify it. It's why they think they're entitled to. And that answer came faster than I expected. 2 nights after the HR email, Franklin showed up at my apartment without warning. No knock this time, just 3 sharp bangs like he owned the building. I opened the door because I needed to see his face. Needed to confirm the thing I was starting to suspect. He walked in without asking, pacing like a man preparing a lecture. "You've been acting strange," he said. "Your sister's worried. Your mother's upset. And you embarrassed the entire family with that stunt at the retirement cookout." I stared. Stunt? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't cause a scene. Didn't do anything except stop being their servant. He continued, "I told your job the truth about your situation because someone has to hold you accountable." There it was. He said it with no shame, no hesitation, no attempt to soften the blow. But I stayed quiet because I needed him to keep talking. He did. "Oh, don't look at me like that. You've been drifting for years. Evan. You think a paycheck means you're stable? You think living in this shoebox means you're an adult?" He looked around my apartment like he was inspecting a rental property he regretted owning. Then he dropped the real reason, the one Lydia hadn't told me, the one none of them wanted me to know. "You were never supposed to leave the family structure. You understand that, right?" I blinked. "What structure?" "Our system," he said like it was obvious. "Everyone in this family has a place. Kayla is the anchor. Marty handles the finances. Jordan keeps the kids connected. And you—" He paused like he was choosing the right insult. "You keep things running. You do the jobs no one else wants to do. You help. You support. That's your role." My blood went cold. He wasn't being metaphorical. He meant it. "You were supposed to stay close," he continued. "Live nearby. Show up when needed. We relied on that. You stepping back screws with everything. People don't like chaos. Chaos. My independence was chaos to them." I finally asked, "Why does it matter? Why do you care where I work or live?" His voice tightened, the first crack of honesty slipping through. "Because someone has to be the baseline." "The what?" "The baseline," he repeated. "The one who doesn't outgrow the family. The one who makes everyone else look like they're doing better. Every family needs one. Every family needs one. A designated failure. A built-in cautionary tale. And he, my father, had assigned that role to me. He wasn't mocking me to push me. He wasn't criticizing me because he wanted better for me. He needed me to stay small so everyone else felt big. It wasn't care. It wasn't concern. It wasn't tough love. It was calculated containment. "You should be grateful," he added, and that was when I knew he truly believed it. "We let you be part of everything even though you contribute the least. You owe us loyalty. Let me be part. Owe them loyalty." I felt something dark lift off my shoulders. Not grief. Not anger. Not shock. Just certainty. Because now I knew the truth with terrifying clarity. He didn't love me. He managed me, controlled me, used me, shaped me into the role that made his world comfortable. And I was done being the baseline. Franklin had no idea he had just handed me everything I needed. Because once a man reveals the cold, selfish, horrifying reason for his cruelty, you stop fearing him, and you start planning how to dismantle the structure he swore you'd never escape. When Franklin walked out of my apartment that night, still ranting about roles and family order, he thought he'd won something. He thought he'd put me back in line. He thought explaining the system would scare me into staying part of it. But all he did was say the one thing I'd needed for decades. "You were never meant to outgrow us." Good. Because that meant outgrowing them was the one thing I absolutely had to do. And I was going to do it in a way they couldn't twist, couldn't guilt, and couldn't recover from. I didn't yell. Didn't go on social media. Didn't expose them at family gatherings. I went for the kind of revenge that leaves no dramatic explosions. Just silence, absence, and consequences. Step 1. Cut all access. I blocked Franklin's number, Kayla's, Marty's, Jordan's. Then I left the family group chat without a word. I didn't explain a thing. Not a single sentence to defend myself. Because explanations invite arguments, and arguments give them power. Silence, though. Silence is a blade. Step 2. Protect the life they tried to sabotage. I forwarded Franklin's email to HR with context. They asked if I wanted to file anything formal. I said yes. A parent trying to interfere with an adult employee's job? That's not family drama. That's harassment. HR flagged his email, filed documentation, sent him a cease and desist notice, and then they asked if I felt safe from future interference. I said, not from him. They tightened my privacy settings, flagged all outside contacts, and told me if anyone tried to reach out pretending to speak on my behalf, they'd be blocked and reported. Franklin lost all access to my life, professionally and personally, with one signature. Step 3. Return everything they dumped on me for years. That weekend, I rented a U-Haul and drove to my storage unit where I'd kept years of their junk. Tools, furniture, boxes from old moves, electronics I'd repaired for free but never got paid for. I drove to Franklin's house at 6 a.m., didn't knock, didn't announce myself. I unloaded every box onto the lawn, stacked neatly, organized, labeled because I wanted zero confusion later. On top of the highest pile, I placed a manila folder containing copies of my HR report, his email, the cease and desist, a note that said only, "You don't own me. Find someone else to be your baseline." I drove away before anyone woke up. Step 4. Disappear from their system completely. New phone number, new email, new locks, new boundaries. I told my landlord not to let anyone into the building for me. I sent a single message to my mom, one she could read privately without the family listening. You had years to protect me. Now I'm protecting myself. I hope you find peace, but I'm choosing mine. Her reply came hours later. You're right. Nothing more. For the first time in her life, she didn't try to fix anything. She accepted it. Rumors reached me through mutual acquaintances over the next month. Kayla freaked out when she realized her baseline was gone. Marty was furious because without me, he suddenly had to help with things he'd never bothered learning. Jordan had a full meltdown when he realized I wasn't coming back to fix his laptop, car, or life. And Franklin went silent. Not angry, not yelling, silent, because he'd finally learned the truth. You can call someone useless. You can call them worthless. You can call them your baseline. But the second they walk away, your whole system collapses. 2 months later, I was hiking with new friends from my Sunday group when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My life was finally mine. Quiet, full, untangled. I stood on a ridge overlooking the Cedar Falls River and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Light, untethered, free. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their system. I didn't need their structure. But they needed me to stay small. And I stopped being small. My last thought before heading back down the trail was simple. Turns out the only thing I ever needed to do to stop being the family failure was to stop being part of the family.